how did you meet Mom?
Mommy, okay. All right. I'm gonna have to be honest by saying this here. And mommy kind of knows about this, but I have to be honest and tell the truth. Back then, uh, I was very shy. All right. This is like one of the things I didn't tell you, and I know you know this already, but just so as a matter of record, I was in a car accident. And before that car accident, I was very, very shy, very shy. I love playing basketball, and basketball was the only thing to bring me out. It was always, that. But it was one particular day, I fell off a car. I did something really stupid, and that's where Jerry comes in. I mentioned his name, Jerry Kennedy. Um, this is all coming. I'm gonna mention how Mommy and I got together, but. After playing a game of basketball and stuff like that, my cousin Donald, who used to be my favorite cousin, we used to do a thing like make sure that we dressed good as we went home and took a shower and we got back. And the thing known as the way you used to style back then was like, you had the beaver caps, you had the sharkskin suits and stuff like that. The kind of shoes was like gaiters and stuff like that. So, and then they had pro kids, or what was it? What's the sneaker with the star on the side? Converse sneakers. Those were the only two styles that they had at that time. And so I used to go home and get dressed and get styled up, and then come out. And I remember, Jerry came around with his car, and it was the first car, And I said, everybody, back then they didn't have McDonald's and stuff like that, but they had White Castle. And everybody used to love to go to White Castle. So Jerry came up one night, somebody mentioned the idea of Jerry take us to White Castle. So I started heading towards the car, and everybody piled into this little Ford car. It's a small car. So I just sat on the fender of the car. Why did that? Just being stupid. Thinking that some of the guys, they do stupid things like that. Drive off a little bit, and then they kind of and then stop. And you get off. But Jerry didn't do that. He drove and he drove and he drove, and he took his car and he wiggled it like that with me holding on. And I could feel myself falling. I knew I was going to fall off, and eventually, boom, I fell off and it hit my head. I don't recall this, but I remember my friend, he came, he told me this, that he's the one that picked me up. His name was Larry Horton. He picked me up from the back, and because I remember laying there on the ground, and all I could see was a whole bunch of people, everybody running towards me, and then somebody picked me up, and that was Larry. And I started walking, and I was walking like I was drunk. You got to imagine I was only 16 years old at that time, and I'm walking, and everybody knew that I had to go to the hospital. I had to get that bad because I had that accident, but there was no blood that was spilled or anything like that. But they knew something was wrong. I sat down on the bench. I said the stupidest thing. Larry's brother's name was Joe Horton, and Joe and Larry, they were like my best friends. For some stupid reason, I said to Joe, if my mother asked, tell her that I tripped over a chain. I don't know why I said that. Eventually, they knew that I had to get to a hospital. I had to go, so they got me back into Jerry's car. I got back in Jerry's car, and he drove me home at 2798 Randall. And I remember when I got out the car, I threw up, and what I threw up was nothing but blood. But I didn't realize it was that bad. Then I went into the house. I'm not sure how I got in the house. Everything becomes by instinct or by your subconscious mind, because I don't remember walking to the building. I don't remember pushing the button, getting on the elevator. I don't remember none of that. All I know is that I was only in the kitchen, and I was like this on the refrigerator. And my Aunt Della was sitting on the washing machine, which used to be located in the corner by the window. And Grandma, I'm not sure where she was in that kitchen, but I said that I didn't feel well. Now you gotta figure that it's like summertime and it's not late, and Grandma knew something was wrong. And I left, and I went in the room and I laid down. I went out just like that. Now Grandma knew something was wrong. And then Della was saying, no, he probably had something to drink or what have you. Now you figure I was 16 years old. No. Grandma got me up, and had Granddaddy, take me to the hospital, Jacoby Hospital. I remember being in Granddaddy's car. I don't remember Grandma getting me up. I don't remember going down the stairs. I don't remember getting in Granddaddy's car. I remember being in Granddaddy's car, okay? And I remember the drive towards the hospital. And I remember I asked Granddaddy to pull over. And he pulled over and opened up the door and threw up more blood, you know. So he got me to the hospital. I don't remember sitting around. I don't remember talking to anyone. I remember they put me in a room. And in this here room, there has, I guess you call it a gurney or something like that, on one side of the room, and the gurney on the other side of the room. And I sat there, you know, and then I laid down. And then I remember I had to throw up, and I got up and I went to the sink and I threw up. I must have did it a few times because I filled the sink up with blood, nothing but blood. And then I went and I laid down on another gurney, on the other gurney, as opposed to the one I just got off. After that, I went completely blank. Now, from what Grandma told me, by this time she was at the hospital. From what she told me, she said that it took 3 people to wrestle me down. They said that I just went completely bonkers or whatever. I don't know what happened. She said I pushed somebody, a male nurse, and pushed him so hard that he fell up against the wall. You know, everything just went completely blank. Next thing you know, I'm being operated on. There's a doctor, I wish I could remember his name. He came from another country. He came here special, not from me, but he was here. He was a specialist. And it was just timing that he was there on that particular day, because he was the only one that could do the operation on my head. My brain had gotten shoved to one side, and they had to cut open my head and get the blood out before I drowned, before it killed me. It was just fortunate that he was there, and he's the one that got the blood out. He's the one that saved my life. After that, I went into a coma, and I was in a coma for a month. Wasn't sure. The doctors gave 3 chances as far as my recovery, if at all. Either I would die, you know, because of that accident. I would come out paralyzed, you know, for the rest of my life, or I would lose my memory. I came out with a bit of both. What happened was I was paralyzed on my left side, as you know, by the way I walk today. And the loss of memory lasted for 6 months. Now, loss of memory was like, if like we're talking, we get into a conversation, if we stop for a second, we never started. That's how bad it was. I never even knew we were talking. If you started saying to me, if we stopped just for a second, and then all of a sudden you started up again, I didn't even know what the hell we were talking about. The memory was gone. And it took 6 months for my brain to get back in place because it was pushed to one side. As far as the paralyzation, back then, you know, you got to figure that I was in a lot of sports. I was very healthy back then. So because of my health, that I survived it, but I lost 30 pounds. So I lost, and I was in a wheelchair. Uncle Rusty would have to explain the real details on this here, because it was difficult. But I started out as far as trying to get back to playing basketball again, and I couldn't even walk. So I remember doing one sit-up, trying to do one sit-up, one push-up. I couldn't even walk, so that was out. But I tried, and I tried, and I tried. And Grandma used to take me outside when I could walk just a little bit. And I had to hold on to Grandma, you know. And we had to do this at night because wouldn't do it when anybody was out. So at night, you know, Grandma used to take me and we'd go downstairs, down the elevator, and we'd walk around the park, you know, if I can make it, you know. So I guess, you know, we used to make it like halfway around the park and then cut through, you know. So I had to do that until I can get around and do more, and get around and do the whole park, you know. So, and eventually, you know, it was like taking chances, you know. Walk Donald. He used to go with me. I used to hold on to Donald, and Donald would walk me around the park, you know, until eventually I can just hold on to him, and I can walk, you know, without really holding. And I did that as often as possible, until finally I can do and walk by myself, you know. So it was a strenuous, you know, real, you know, piece of work. I mean, it was just difficult. And doing the push-ups and doing the sit-ups and trying to get to the point where I can run and trying to get to the point where I can do this and do it. The one thing that did happen, as a result of that accident, as I mentioned, I said I used to be very shy. Once I recovered, it took me 2 years, right? A little more than 2 years to get everything back, to get back where I can run, to get back where I could jump, to get back where I can do a lot of different things. There's a picture in my phone, as a matter of fact. I'll show you that picture. That's part of my recovery, where you see Uncle Rusty and I playing basketball, and I'm jumping up and I got my hand up like that. That was like 2 years after the accident. That's part of that recovery. And I remember, that before then, I used to be so shy. Well, something happened with that accident because it knocked all the shyness out of me. Something happened where I just all of a sudden, I could talk. All of a sudden, I wasn't shy no more. All of a sudden, I'm talking to girls, and it was just strange, I did dance. I get up and dance and different things. I met, as time went on, by this time, my basketball stuff was back and stuff like that. I got back on the basketball team in high school and stuff like that. So everything started coming back together. I met another girl, all right? I met another girl before Mommy. All right? I didn't have a lot of girls in my life growing up, but it was this one girl that I met, and I met her at a dance. Back there at the dances, they had the dances, there's the Devil's End, and another dance called the La Martinique. All right? Those were really the two dances that most people at that time used to go to. And I met her at the Devil's End, Anyway, I kind of fell head over heels about that particular girl. This is during the time of Vietnam. This is during the Vietnam days. Okay. Going with her and whatnot, I used to take her to the dances and stuff like that. I was still, a little bit, how can you say, I wasn't shy or anything like that, but I was very careful. I never did anything as far as making a move on her, stuff like that. For the most part, what I did do is I went over there like most Saturdays and stuff like that. I used to hang out there. We watched TV together. I took her out on some Saturdays and stuff like that. I was pretty much a gentleman, On one particular day, my cousin Donald, he came home from Vietnam. And Donald being my favorite cousin, I wanted to be with my cousin. It just so happened that it was on my birthday, So rather than going to see Brenda, that was the girl, that was her name, rather than go see her, I went to be with my cousin Donald and want to be with, want to hang out with him. There was also a time that you don't know of that, I'm sure I mentioned to you. It was during the time I was messing around with drugs. A lot of people in Throgs Neck were messing around with drugs, and I was messing around with drugs at that time. I was pretty lucky because I didn't stay with it long. But I went to hang out with Donald on that particular day, and we got high and stuff like that. Anyway, I called the girl and told her that I couldn't make it and whatnot. Plus the fact, being with her, she was a model, so it was like every time I saw her, anytime I went to her house, anytime we went out, she had the most fabulous outfit. She had the best this, the best that, and stuff like that. And it was hard trying to keep up. I mean, I used to go buy clothes on 125th Street. That's where everybody used to shop. Buy clothes on 125th Street, wear those clothes, and then take them back the next day. It was like that, and it was like that every week. And I didn't make a lot of money, so I couldn't dress like her. So I used to buy the clothes, wear them for a while, take them back and whatnot. And that went on for a long time. Anyway, I could not hang out with her that particular day because I wanted to hang out with Donald. She thought I was seeing somebody else, and I didn't want to explain or tell her that no, I'm with my cousin and stuff like that. So she broke up with me right over the phone, and that was the end of that. And that hurt me to my heart. And I never said anything to anybody. I never said anything to Donald. Never said anything, nothing. So it took a while for me to get over that. What I did eventually is I just started hanging out with my friends, David and all of them and stuff like that. We started hanging out, and I said, brother, let's go to this other dance. So we went to this other dance called the La Martinique. Went to the La Martinique and whatnot, and now, like I said, the shyness is gone. I'm ready to party and I'm ready to have a good time. And that's pretty much when I met your mother, you know. And to her, she was with a group of girls and stuff like that, and I just happened to pick her out, and you know. And you know, I wasn't thinking much other than she's she's pretty, she's that, and when I want to get to know her, stuff like that. You know, the typical guy. And I remember then, and back then we used to wear platform shoes. I don't know if you remember the platforms, or the platform. Well, I had platform shoes, and mommy had platform shoes, and she used to dance, and we used to see eye to eye because she's up high, and when so I'm thinking that this could work. And I danced with her and I talked with her, and then I even pulled her to the side after the dance, and we sat down and we talked, and I remember kissing her and stuff like that. But I was once again, came to the party with a group of friends, so when I left, Mommy thought I was going to take her home. I wasn't thinking that way, and and I didn't realize that her friends that she came with left. I guess they assumed that I was going to take her, but I didn't know that. And I went ahead and I said, listen, can I see you again? That kind of thing. And so we already had made plans to see her the next weekend at a birthday party, which was Uncle Larry's birthday. So I left, and Mommy later told me, and that she got robbed in the building that she lived in, and that she got robbed, and I didn't notice, so it was like I felt bad after that. Mommy and I, for some reason, there was something about her in terms of her intelligence. She was older than me, intelligently, I mean, she thought faster than I did in terms of the things I should and should not do, stuff like that, or things I should get involved with and stuff like that. I still had this party, thing in me, and I still had this, so much get up and go in me, and I guess she kind of like toned me down on that. And when and I got, I was getting kind of used to that. So I was seeing her like every Saturday, and then we would go out, and I would still take her out and stuff like that. But for the most part, maybe we stayed at home, or I went to hang out with her and her family, at different parties and stuff like that. And I got closer to the family, and that's when Uncle Larry, and when he walked in the door, and Uncle Larry and I, we became buddies like almost on day one. I mean, we saw eye to eye from day one, and Uncle Larry being as tall as he is, and and I don't know. I mean, it was just for the most part kind of hit it off, and the different things that we did together, and obviously before you were born, I fell head over heels. I fell in love, put it that way. I mean, it wasn't like right away. It took some time. But I fell in love with her and we wanted to be together. So we ended up moving. I think we moved to a hotel. We lived in this hotel on 96th Street. We had this one room, all right, whereas that the room literally, I had a bathroom, but the room was literally like, if you look down the hall here, that was almost the size of the width of that room. No, I'm exaggerating, but it was pretty narrow. You had a couch, and you had the window, and you had like, I don't know, maybe it was a shelf or something like that. So we bought this here thing. We bought this fryer, I think is what you call it, where you can like heat up stuff. You can cook stuff in it. You plug it in, it heats up and whatnot. So that's basically how we ate and whatnot. And we was paying $96 a week. And we lived, so we lived there for during the summertime. When we left there, we found another place in it was also in the Bronx, over there by the Bronx Zoo, and we moved over there. Mommy was still married at that time, she was still married at that time, and this is another thing that I learned when Alvin and Karen and Alvin, I used to think were a brother and sister. I found out later on that they were hers and whatnot, so that was a little difficult, but anyway, I had already fallen in love and whatnot, But we moved and we lived over there near the Bronx Zoo now, and Mommy at that time, she was getting welfare, she was getting these welfare checks and stuff like that. So we used the welfare checks to actually pay for the room, to pay the rent in that place. And it was a pretty big place, a big apartment. But we didn't realize how bad that neighborhood was, just didn't know. The first day that we were there, they broke into the house, and when they came in through the door, and busted through, and stole the food out of the refrigerator, and I guess a few other things. Back then, I had a lot of clothes. I had the clothes, the shark skin and the beaver cap, and I had the leather suit, and I had all that stuff, and the platform shoes. I was working in the mailroom. I was making probably $100 a week at that time. I mean, wasn't making hardly no money. But anyway, they broke into the house. So we called her cousin Jack, and when Jack told us to get a police lock. And what a police lock is like it's a bar. It's a long bar. It hooks down on the floor, and it kind of connects to a lock that's on the door. So whenever the light kind of stayed up there. So whenever you close the door and you hit the lock, that bar would shift over. So any way you can get in, you can't bust into it because that bar is holding it. Well, guess what? They decided they came through the window. So they broke into the window the next time and whatnot, So now we got all this broken glass, and once again they stole the food out of our refrigerator, So now we got Jack, and Jack, we bought these a gate to put up on the window, and once we did that, the obviously management had to take care of that glass, but we had the window barred up and stuff like that. And we figured out, no, they can't get through the door, they can't come through the window. And I was even thinking like, well, Dad, let me just take and put a wire to it and plug it in. They touched the bar, and it's gone. They said, no, if you kill him, you go to jail. So I couldn't do that, So, but anyway, as time went on, they got in again, and I mean, oh yeah, the few times they broke in, they stole the TVs. We had a TV that Granddaddy gave us. They stole that, and then the next time they broke in, they stole the next TV. Plus, I had this reel-to-reel tape recorder that Granddaddy let me hold. They stole that, Anyway, the third time, which was the final straw, and they broke in. They took, and I don't know how they did it, but they had the bars. They broke through the window and had the bars turned up like that. And once again, took the food out of the refrigerator. And this time, they took all my clothes. So now I had no clothes. And that was it. We had to move. We had no choice. And Grandma and Granddaddy and whatnot, they had to help us get out of there and stuff like that. And we didn't want to separate. And we was like madly in love, and we did not want to separate. So Granddaddy took her home, took Mommy home, and then I went home with Granddaddy. Anyway, we saw each other and we still went to the parties and stuff like that. But we had to figure out a way on how we can get back together and stuff like that. And I think it was at that time we found another apartment. And we found an apartment on 104th Street. This was over there in Spanish Harlem. And it was a nice, very beautiful apartment. They had the balcony, not a balcony, but they had like what do you call like a terrace, with a fire escape. Pretty much a fire escape. Anyway. And it was Pat, my cousin Pat, we bought furniture from her, a couch and stuff like that. I think it was Mommy and Daddy with Grandma and they helped us get a bed, so, and, I was, feeling at that time I was probably about 21 years old, and I was feeling, kind of grown up. And when I felt that I was really doing stuff and whatnot, it was I was going back to school, as a matter of fact. I wanted to go back to college, and I think, as a matter of fact, I know I'm jumping the gun on that part, but anyway, one of the things that happened, and this is something here that was also disturbing, but I'm going to tell you about it. We lived there on 104th Street and stuff like that, and I know that I think I was a little bit more head over heels over Mommy than she was with me at the time, And I had to learn. I was very, very, because that's the way Grandma raised me. I was very, very, how can I say, cordial. I was very naive. I was very careful and taken advantage of because anything that Mommy wanted, I did. No questions asked. That's just the way it was. And I had to learn to be a little bit more trusting in what and this is pretty much what she wanted me to be, a little bit more trusting. And I said, yeah, okay, And so what happened was she wanted to kind of like get away, and I do something different, like whatever. I said, all right, well, I'll probably go to the movies. She said she was going to go and be with a friend of hers. I forgot her name, but she was going to go see a friend of hers. Now, at that time, I found it a little strange that she's saying that she's going to go be with a friend of hers, because mommy usually did not wear a dress. But she, for some particular reason, was going to wear a dress that particular day. But like I said, I had to be more trusting. So I did, I just said, okay. So after she left and whatnot, she went about, and I watched her out the window as she was leaving. So I kind of waited around for a while. I was going to go to the movies. I didn't want to go to the movies, but I had to make time to do something for myself, to make the time fly. Mommy came back, and I'm like looking, I'm saying, well, what happened, like that. And the next thing you know, she's telling me that she wasn't really going to go see, a friend of hers, that she was going to be with somebody else. And that broke my heart. That really broke my heart, because I was trying so hard to be, to do the right thing. And she's like the only person I ever fell in love with. And when she told me that, that really hurt. That hurt. And she had to grab me, because I went a little bonkers and wanted, and I didn't, obviously I'd never hit her. I had never hit mommy ever in my life, and wanted, but that particular day I just went a little berserk, because, it was just the wrong thing to do. You took advantage of, my kindness, and then it just hurt, So she grabbed me, and ever since then, we kind of made amends and made sure that it never happened again. There would be other times. I remember there was a time when I came home from work. Mom would go to work, and I would go to work. And I came home, and she wasn't there. So automatically, because of that, one reason when she kind of lied to me and whatnot, I didn't know whether to trust her or not. And whatnot, so her cousins, she had cousins that lived in the area, like on 110th Street. Her aunt lived also on 116th Street. I think it was 116th Street, where they both lived over there. And I was in such good health at the time, I could run. And when your adrenaline is built up, you're so nervous and you just get that strength. And I just went running, looking for your mother, and I'm running, and and stupid me, it's like everywhere I ran, and I see two people together, and I'm thinking it's your mother and some other guy, it's like that, and I just went running and running. Now, your mother's aunt, she lived on the 16th floor. Rather than wait for the elevator, I ran all 16 flights. Boom, 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 boom. Went knocking on the door. Is Jennifer here? No, Jennifer's not here, like that. And now I'm getting nervous. Where is she? Like that. I went running down the stairs, went running across the projects to the other side, went running up another 16 flight of stairs. There's her cousin's house. And sure enough, she was there. And guess what? She's also in a dress. And now I'm like really kind of like a little bothered by this, because you never wear a dress anywhere, but you're in a dress now, And they're sitting around and playing cards with a friend, her Geraldine, that's her cousin's name, and her friend is Larry, And you hear now with a dress and stuff like that. So it just really kind of hurt me, that I'm thinking this way, that why this, why that, why now, that kind of thing. So those are the kind of things that kind of went through my head. And believe it or not, that's before we got married. Now, there was a situation that happened during that same period where your mother and I broke up. I think we must have broke up about 3 times, but this one time here that we broke up. And she just said, well, that's it, and so on and so forth. So, and this is when we was living on 104th Street. So now I had to figure out a way. I used to have this. We used to have a stereo that I bought. I had my first charge card at that time, and I charged this stereo, and I bought the shelves to go up and put the table, put it up there and stuff like that. And when we broke up, Mommy took the stereo. I just happened to come home and the stereo was gone. And I said, oh gosh, so that was like the end. And so I wrote down, and it wasn't really the truth, but I wrote down on a piece of paper and hung it up on the wall, got to see Brenda. Like, don't forget to call Brenda, something like that. And I did that on purpose because I knew she was going to come back, and to get whatever else she needed, and she was going to see that note, And sure enough, she saw it, and that's when she took the stereo. I guess that's like revenge. So she took the stereo. Now it was grandma and granddaddy and whatnot. That we ended up going back, to Grandma Ruby's house and getting getting the stereo and stuff back. And that's with Grandma Ruby, talking about her. She was like the most beautiful and kindest person ever. And I mean, it was like I really hated, for that breakup. And when I left, it was hard, and I gave her a kiss on the cheek and whatnot, and then, that was the end of that. But the way Mommy and I got back together, it was strange because now I had to figure out a way on how to, to now not miss her, to try to get that out of my system and whatnot. So, I just worked that job and I did all kinds of different things, and I went out and played ball, and I did everything to keep my mind off your mother and stuff like that. And that had lasted for 2 weeks. And I'm thinking on that second week that, okay, it's over, that I'm going to go out and start partying again, because I didn't go back to any parties or anything like that after that breakup. But when I came outside the side door and I'm walking with a friend of mine, and then on the outside, the entrance, the exit of that door there, I see your mother. She's standing there. And how I got to the door, she saw me stop for a while, and then I decided, all right, well, let me just go. And I went over there to the door, and she said, can we talk? And we did, and whatnot, and we kind of like made amends. We made up on that particular day, that particular night, I should say, and then we got back together. And that was it. I think that was the last time we broke up, as far as that was concerned. As far as marriage and whatnot, we just set the date and whatnot. We just set the date. And yeah, your mother and I, even before we got married, we had little arguments, and I don't know, it was something about, agree, disagree, that type of thing, but we never really, it was never really that bad of an argument. We never really did anything bad to each other. We just had stupid arguments, But it was her friends and wanted, that actually, her friends from work and stuff like that, that actually, we paid for all of this stuff, but it was her friends and stuff that actually made the dresses, and I, for the most part, got the money together for the tuxedos, that Uncle Rusty and all the other ushers wore and stuff like that, and I'm not sure how I did it, but I was able to do it and stuff like that. And your mother and I, we got married, and you see the pictures that of your mother and I when we came out from the church and stuff like that, and but but as far as longevity, as far as how that marriage left, I think it was for the most part, just having a family.